Hey guys, how are we doing today? This is Little Black Belt, and welcome to our first C++ tutorial. This is a C++ tutorial for beginners, and I mean like straight beginners, like someone who's never programmed a computer at all, programmed anything, did zero experience in C++. This is the tutorial for you. If you already have a little bit of experience, you probably aren't going to be starting out with something this basic, so you might want to look elsewhere for that. This is brand new to C++ or really any programming language, but we're going to be using C++ in this tutorial. So today, by the way, I'm using Notepad++, and we'll be compiling with G++. I have a video on how to download Notepad++, get it set up with G++ and everything, so you can check that out. I'll put a link in the description as well as a little box in the video for you to click on. But let's get started for today. So here in Notepad++, we're going to be making a brand new C++ file, and the way we're going to do that is indicate what language we're going to be writing in, go over to C and into C++, and that's going to set us up for all those keywords and everything that we're going to be needing. And so the first thing that we're going to be typing today, and because we're going to need to be able to output things to the screen, we're going to be typing #include or #include. I think it's actually called an octothorpe, but whatever, it doesn't matter. And then these little arrows here, IO stream. Okay. This include is what's called a preprocessor directive, and that's all I'm going to say on that right now. But including this IO stream is going to allow us to actually output things to the monitor. Okay, using this thing called cout. Now this next part, we're going to type using namespace std for standard. Okay. Now what this basically imports the standard library, and that includes things like cout. Cout is what we use in C++ to print things to the screen. In C, it was called printf. It's not really the same thing, but so because we're beginners here, we're using this using namespace standard. Typically, you wouldn't bring in this whole library. You would just bring in what you need. For example, if all we want to do is use cout, then we can simply say using standard : cout, and that will import just cout from the library. But there's other things that we can use from this library that are helpful. For example, endline or endl is another thing that we can use. So because we're beginners, we're just going to be using namespace standard. We're going to bring in the whole thing, and for later tutorials, for later videos in the tutorial, we will change that, import just what we need. For right now, we're just going to use using namespace standard. That's going to bring in the whole thing. And then, oh, by the way, with the enters, this is just for formatting. I mean, you could have no space in between these, and it would take it just fine. But I like to, expand a little bit, leave a little space in between things, just to make it look a little bit better. Now, the next thing we're going to be writing is our main function, and this is what's going to actually run inside this program. So we'll type int main. We need these two parentheses, and then brackets to surround our function. So we say everything in between these brackets is what's going to be executed inside main. And then a good coding practice to do is to type a little return 0 on the bottom. Doesn't really do anything. When we get to functions later, you'll find out what return really does, but this main, it's just a good coding practice to include this return 0 at the bottom of main. Now, we need to talk a little bit about data types. Okay, C++ has some primitive data types, and we're going to go over those right now. So I just got this little text right here with a couple of primitive data types. So this isn't all of them, but these are the most basic ones, and probably the ones you're going to be using the most. To start off, we have the Boolean value, which is indicated by the keyword bool in C++. These bools, they did not have in C, so these are new to C++. And basically, a Boolean value is simply a true or false, and really it's a 0 or 1, with a 1 being true and a 0 being false. And so that's what a Boolean value is. And you can create a Boolean value using the keyword bool. So if we type bool a, this creates a Boolean value called a, right? And we can assign a true or false to a. We could say a gets true, right? And so now a is true. Another type we have here is a character indicated by char. Some people call it char. I like char or char. I just say char. Anyway, it's a character. That's a single character that you would type on your keyboard, and we can create one of those called char, and we'll call it char b. Okay, and a char b we can assign any keyboard character. Let's say we'll assign it P, alright? We use single quotes to indicate a character when we're assigning it, alright? These single quotes say, hey, this is a character, we're going to assign it the letter P. Our next tutorial is going to be on ASCII values and what's really going on when you say P, okay? But for right now, this character B holds the value of a character P, right? Next we have the integer. Just like in math, an integer is a whole number. No decimals, right? Just a whole number. So the way we indicate an int or an integer is just saying int, and we'll call it I, right? And then we'll give it the value 5. Just a whole number value 5. And finally, the floating point indicated as a float, and this is simply a decimal value. And we can say float f, and we'll say 1.5. Okay? So 1.5, this floating value f is 1.5. Okay, so these are some sample data types we have. There's some other ones too. For example, a double, or a double float, or they also have unsigned and signed. So these are signed because we could technically make this int a -5. An unsigned int doesn't have negatives. So yeah, these are some basic primitive data types, and what I was talking about with cout when I was mentioning namespace earlier, we can actually print these to the screen. So if we were to run this program, from what we could see on the screen, it would appear like it didn't do anything. However, what is actually going on is it's creating a space on the stack for this bool A and assigning it true. Okay, creating a space on the stack for this char B and giving it the value P. Creating a space again for I and giving it 5, and you get the point. But there's no way we could actually see this is going on. If you want to see what happened, we can print it to the screen, and we do that with the cout function. Okay, cout, and then these arrow operators. Okay, these operators just say, sorry, that's the wrong way. These operators say that, hey, we're going to print this to the screen. Okay, and so we can say in quotes, the bool A, and I can't spell, the bool A is, let me just type semicolon, and then we separate again with these operators and we just type A, and then we can use the end line function, and that will just create a new line. Okay, that's basically the same thing as pressing enter, like doing that. Okay, we'll cout again and say the char B is, do a colon here, and I should add a space after that just for looks, and these again, and we just simply type B, and we'll throw another end line on there. Okay, we'll do the same thing for the integer I, the int I, not O, is, I'm sorry for my loud keyboard, by the way. It's not really meant for typing, it's a gaming keyboard, but. And last but not least, the float f is, and then f, and then we'll do an end line after that. Okay, and now we'll simply compile it. And if you saw my last video, you'll know with npp exec we can simply press F6 and run the script. I will I'm going to take off this run thing, though, because it doesn't typically work very well. What happens basically is it runs it so quickly, and then it goes away, and you can't even see what happens. So we're going to run it through the command line instead. Just press save. Save to update that change, and then press OK. It's going to ask us to save our C++ file, and I'm going to save it to the desktop. And we need to call it, we'll call it new2.cpp. Indicate the CPP after that, otherwise it will save it as a .h, and that is not what we want. We'll learn about .h's later, but this needs to be saved as a .cpp. We'll just click save. Okay. If you don't get any errors here, that means the compilation ran correctly, and you can see it created this new to executable file. This is the C++ file, that's this, and this executable is created based on this. Now we're going to run it through command prompt. So we open up cmd, okay, and because this executable is stored on our desktop, we need to navigate to the desktop. So we'll just do cd for change directory, and then to desktop. So now we are able to access files on the desktop, and the executable is simply called new2, so we're going to execute that. And as you can see, it printed this out. So let's look at what we got based on what we assigned to these variables here. So bool A is true, and remember what I said, true is simply a 1, whereas false is a 0, so it printed a 1 here. Makes sense, right? Char B is P, right? So it's the character P, and as you can see, it printed the character P. Int I, oh I spelled it wrong, but int I is 5, and we can see that it output 5, and float F is 1.5, okay? And yeah, so it basically just printed this out onto our screen. And then when we're done, we can just close this command prompt. So there we go. I'm gonna make this change here. And so that we can see some a very simple program here to assign values and print them out to the screen using the cout function. So that's going to cover today's tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for next time, and hope you guys learned something new today. So this is Little Black Belt out.